Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück bei Season. Wir haben in der letzten Folge durch viele Landschaften gefahren, haben Ziegen gestreichelt, haben kaputte Kräne und Transportmöglichkeiten gefunden. Und da war das Wetter noch schön. Jetzt sind wir im Gewitter, im Regen und alles wirkt irgendwie, unangenehm. Ich sehe nichts. Sag mal. Ein bisschen umsehen würde ich mich trotzdem gerne. Ja, alles ist verlassen. Alles ist kaputt. Und die schöne Welt, die wir zuvor gesehen hatten, ist nun irgendwie nicht mehr so schön. Es wirkt alles irgendwie unangenehm und bedrohlich, habe ich das Gefühl. Also ich fühle mich nicht mehr ganz so sicher, muss ich sagen. Und ich hoffe, dass die Warnungen der anderen nicht der Wahrheit entsprechen. Wir stellen unser Fahrrad mal ab. Und wir können leider nicht durch. Aber ich würde gerne wissen, was da steht. Kann man da... Ach, man kann dorthin. Wunderbar. I thought I might change the season by changing the landscape. Cut these down like trees. But that's not how season changes. Ich dachte, ich könnte das Zeitalter ändern, indem ich die Landschaft verändere. Es fällen wie Bäume, aber so ändert sich ein Zeitalter nicht.
This person wanted the season to change. Why?
Tja. So, hier könnten wir mit dem Fahrrad wieder raus. Das habe ich natürlich jetzt wieder draußen vergessen. Und hier ebenfalls. Okay. Dann laufe ich jetzt hier lang und sammle mein Fahrrad wieder ein. Einmal das nasse, hohe Gras. Und rauf aufs Fahrrad. Das wollte ich die ganze Zeit schon machen.
They wanted the season to change because they were so alone.
Jede Leitung ist tot. Jedes Kabel durchgeschnitten. Ich hasse dieses Zeitalter. So, hier können wir nicht durch. Wir schauen uns trotzdem noch mal ein bisschen um. Einfach um zu... Upala. Einfach um zu... dass sie mal wieder absteigt. Einfach um zu schauen, ob hier vielleicht noch irgendwas Kleines versteckt ist. Aber dem scheint erstmal nicht so. Okay. Ich stelle mein Fahrrad ab. Dann haben wir eine kleine Spieluhr.
One melody is like me out here alone. I can't really live like this.
Kann ich sie nochmal aufziehen? Nee. Ich dachte, ich könnte sie vielleicht nochmal aufziehen, um den... den Audiorekorder zu benutzen.
I have a feeling they use these music boxes to fall asleep.
Auch hier wieder eine.
Two voices is like me and my mom. We can survive, but eventually you need more.
Wir warten noch mal ganz kurz. Eine Stimme, eine Melodie, allein in der Wildnis, hält nicht lang. Zwei Stimmen, eine Melodie und eine Harmonie können eine Weile überleben. Drei Stimmen, eine Gemeinschaft und ein Lied können ein ganzes Zeitalter überdauern.
They kept themselves company with music.
Ja, hier ist nämlich noch ein und da hinten auch.
Three voices is complex as life is supposed to be. I could listen forever.
Oh, ich hing gerade fest, Gottes Willen. Das wäre eine kleine Bushaltestelle. Ich traf einen Fahrer von einer Gruppe, die eine Gemeinschaft aufbaut. Ich fahre mit ihm. Lebe wohl, einsamer Ort. Lebe wohl, einsames Zeitalter.
Looks like they made it out of here. But what is this group?
Ich weiß natürlich nicht, ob andere Gruppen da auch freundlich gesinnt sind.
In the empty places, I found companionship in the tapes I recorded before leaving home. The elder told me the story of her life. I listened back to it, ready to note down anything that seemed important.
Let's set the scene for the listener, whoever that might be. This is the elder speaking. We're sitting in the plaza, saying goodbye to a dear soul. We're here to see if there's anything useful in my mind that could help you on your trip. A century's worth of memories, dreams, fantasies, visions. Like a big, old, haunted library. When I die, this library will burn down. But which book should we check out first? I don't have all the answers, but I do feel the story of my life could help you understand what kind of world is out there. It's okay not to understand everything right away. The moment may pass before you've gotten a firm hold on it. But as long as you're there to witness it, to take it down in your journal, you and others to come will someday take the time to make sense of it all.
Okay, wir haben jetzt 3 Auswahlmöglichkeiten. Wie soll mir diese Geschichte helfen? Wie heißt du wirklich? Wie wurdest du zur Ältesten? Ich glaube, der Name spielt an dieser Stelle wahrscheinlich gar keine Rolle. Deswegen frage ich erstmal, wie wurdest du zur Ältesten?
First, I got old. That's an important step. Being an elder is all about how you react to strange events. The key is not to be surprised, but kind of frown, look serious, and say something like, "It begins." Never say, "I don't know." Say, "We dive into a pool of uncertainty." I was born on the ocean. My mother and father worked on a cruise ship. The short-lived but glorious, watery republics, floating cities. Most won their independence by the time I was born. How can I describe them? They were a jewel of the golden season. Pleasure boats with a radical political program. How nice. The golden age was a time of flags, logos, mottos, mastheads. My mom taught me to read them. She was the ship's philosopher. My dad was a recycling engineer. Recycling on the ship was a matter of life and death. We had to get the most out of every object and watt of energy.
Woher stammt deine Familie? Erzähl mir von deiner Mutter, erzähl mir mehr von deinem Vater.
These symbols and gestures were layered with meaning. There are signals in the way you might move your hands or close your eyes. Her job was to manage the symbols and their meanings. She designed the ship's flag, for example. Let me draw it for you. After the war, people were disgusted with groups and symbols. Keep an eye out on your trip. I bet you won't see a signal flag flying. Her name was Augusta Kale.
Ah, auf dem einen Gemälde in diesem Pavillon-ähnlichen Stück haben wir ja dieses Gemälde in der Wand gehabt, was wir auch letzten Endes fotografiert haben. Da stand in Gedanken an, oder in Gedanken an, Augusta Kail oder Kehl. Oder in Erinnerung oder sowas. Wie war es, dort aufzuwachsen?
I loved the way the ship would tilt and roll with the waves, especially as I fell asleep. It was picture me as a kid in bed, feeling the swaying of the ship. It was like being rocked to sleep as a baby. I loved exploring the ship too, wandering through the suites, the swimming pool, the game rooms. There were two dance halls. A large, elegant one and another one in the basement.
Ich habe manchmal ein bisschen schneller geklickt, als sie fertig war mit Reden. Ich entschuldige mich.
A lot of my firsts were down there. My first dance, my first kiss, and so forth.
Und so weiter. Wann verließt du das Schiff?
Our ship was taken over in the early days of the war. That was the end of the watery republics. I heard the dance hall in the basement became a weapons cache. Took me half my life to say goodbye to the world I knew in my youth. Imagine me and my parents and everyone I knew being escorted off the ship by a company of soldiers. And I'm thinking, I hope they don't make a mess of my room. I was embarrassed by the younger kids who were crying their eyes out. But they knew, I guess.
Was dachtest du, was passiert? War es das Ende eines Zeitalters?
Even as things got bad, I couldn't imagine the changes were permanent. It's easy now to look back and say, the internationalism of the golden season was violently breaking down. You can be naive about all kinds of things, but not war. Most of my life has been spent in isolated communities, and the one moment I was in the wild world, you couldn't pick a more chaotic time. And we had been warned this season was going to end. Oh, but we didn't understand the warning. You see, one night, along a coastline shimmering above the water. Later, we found out this was an ancient warning system. It hadn't been used in so long. We didn't know what it meant. We just thought, well, ain't that pretty? We tried to stick together and camped out on the coast of the prismatic grounds.
Was sind die Prismabreiten? Was dachten deine Eltern? Wie ging es dir?
A kingdom of art and science. They got rich during the golden season. Everything that made them beloved before the wealth came. Passionate, uncompromising, self-obsessed. Made them unbearable once they had power. Artists make terrible kings. Are you sure you want me to keep going? The story gets darker from here on. Okay, so conditions in the camp were getting worse. My mom got lost in thought for long periods of time. She'd be completely still for hours, days even. We realized she caught, well, now we call it time misperception disorder. It's when you lose your ability to tell how much time is passing. A minute can feel like an hour. A day can pass in 10 seconds.
Wie fühlte sie sich dabei? Wie bekam sie sie?
What's so hard is the feeling of absolute loneliness. Normally, we're all at least roughly in the same flow of time. But with this disorder, you walk alone, truly. We heard about a traveling doctor who could cure these kinds of diseases. I decided to go find him. I found out his name was Dr. Fumio, and he traveled with his son Lucio. People talked about him like he was a god.
Und was geschah, als du sie gefunden hast? Was war mit dem Krieg?
The prismatic grounds had roped almost everyone into their system until they reached the far wastes and heard no for the first time. Nobody reacted well. It got to the point of, neighborhood against neighborhood. Grievances had been buried so deeply we forgot they were there. It felt like things changed overnight. I'd pass through a city and hear later that they'd torn each other apart. I could not imagine it. I described my mom's condition to Dr. Fumio. He said there was no cure yet, but there was a village high in the mountains. He thought it was high enough he'd have a better chance at treatment. Lower places are more dangerous. Valleys are the worst. He invited me to join them in going to the village. But I wanted to go back and get my parents and bring them with me.
Ein Dorf, hoch oben in den Bergen. Was passierte dann?
Yes, our Caro village.
Das dachte ich mir.
People thought it had been destroyed, or was a myth, but Lucio had a vision which showed us how to get here. I packed my things and got ready to leave the next morning. That night, my mom came to me in a dream. She was standing in a field of flowers. I'd grown since I last saw her. We were the same height. She pressed a finger hard into my palm. She taught me well. I knew the meaning of the gesture. I knew no matter what I did, I'd never see my parents again. In the morning, I told Dr. Fumio I would follow him to Caro village. The next few weeks were very physically tiring, hiking, climbing. And when we found the village, building, planting, cleaning, Fumio brought sick people from all over the world, and they got better. The treatments worked. Everyone was healing. So why couldn't I? One day, we got word the war was over. We never found out how it ended. It was like peace just swept over the earth in a split second. There was a party in the plaza to celebrate the end of the war, but I couldn't bring myself to go. Yes, it was over, but it had taken my home, my family. That night, as I was falling asleep, I felt the bed tilt and sway gently, as if it was being tossed on the waves of the ocean. As if I was back in my bedroom on the ship. As if I was back in my mother's arms, being rocked gently to sleep. I knew I was finally home, and nothing could hurt me.
I imagined coming upon a place as hidden and singular as my own village. Eventually, I found myself circling a valley, looking for a way in.